Thanks. Good morning or good afternoon or good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I want to make sure, I think we're probably good to keep going if Maika is ready. But I am Porter. I'm on the core team here at SheFi. Super excited to be bringing you this chat on crypto security and Webacy. So really happy you all were able to join us. As a reminder, we're recording this. And if you enjoy it, feel free to pass it off to a friend. We want to spread the good word about this kind of stuff. So thanks everyone for joining us. And I will pass it off if you're ready to go.
I'm ready. I have my coffee. I plugged in my monitor and it's working. Sometimes
Perfect.
Let me share my screen.
Awesome.
You have to enable it, I think.
Okay. Maggie or Fevin, do you have permissions on that? I am signed in from my personal, so I cannot. Let's check. Yep, we're getting it. Thanks. Are you in SF right now or where?
I am.
Yeah.
It's, I have to say, like, I think if I wanted it to be gloomy, I want it to be raining, but it's just gray.
Feel that.
Where are you right now?
I am in Sun Valley, Idaho. Yes, and then heading back to see my family tomorrow for the Christmas holidays. So exciting stuff. Okay, let's see.
Okay, it looks like I have freedom now.
All right, sweet, let's do it.
All right, can you see my screen?
Yes. All right, you're good.
See you. Okay, awesome. Well, I will get started. Feel free to pause me at any time, but I've been so excited to present to the SheFi community because I've only heard fantastic things, both from you and everyone I talked to about it. So I've been pretty pumped for this. My name's Maika Isogawa. I'll give you a brief background on me before I dive into the meat of everything. But yeah, my name is not hard to pronounce. It's phonetic, so it definitely could be worse, but I'm the co-founder and CEO of Webacy, W-E-B-A-C-Y on here. And we do crypto security, and I'll dive into what we do at Webacy. But me personally, I'm an engineer by trade. I started in the machine learning AI kind of area with computer science. I was at Microsoft for a bit with cybersecurity with the government, and then I started Webacy last year in August. But my first introduction to crypto was actually in 2014. So pretty early on, not the earliest, but pretty in there. And the story comes because I was actually a performer for Cirque Du Soleil. So if you're familiar with the world-renowned circus entertainment company, they have multiple shows around the world, but funny enough, I took a couple of years off school to go do that as an acrobat and a performer. And so while I was on tour, they pay for all your housing and everything. And one piece of it that was funny was that my coworkers were mining Bitcoin while we were on tour. So from their hotel rooms, they didn't have to pay for the energy or any of that, but they got to mine Bitcoin back when it was very lucrative. And that's when I was first introduced into blockchain tech. So when I went back to school, I got really into, more computer science stuff, cryptography, and that was my foray into crypto. And ever since then, DeFi summer of 2017, NFT bull run of 2021, I've been in the space pretty prolifically, just on my own terms, but I've decided to make the full leap into the space last year, starting the company. So for this session, I was hoping to kind of go over some general self-custody topics. So what it is, what you can do to keep yourself safe in general, and then talk about what we do at Webacy and why it's necessary to have some extra security in the space. If you're pretty familiar with, self-custody and crypto security, this might be review, but it's always nice to go over the basics. So I'm sure you've probably come across the term your key, your crypto before, and I'll talk about why this is a phrase that is utilized, but it's kind of about owning your own crypto, owning your own stuff on chain. And depending on who has the keys, it kind of tells you who owns the stuff on chain and who has control. So we'll get into that. There's three main topics I want to talk about. First is going to be what the difference is between custody and self-custody and how to tell the difference. Two, challenges in self-custody, many challenges to talk about. And then lastly, I'll talk about what we do at Webacy and why it's so special. So breaking custody and self-custody down, there's actually three kind of components that go into it. The first one is the key difference. Because it's about the difference between your seed phrase and private keys and who holds those. I'll talk more in detail on the next slide. And then we'll talk about the difference between platforms and wallets and companies, because as you know, in the space, there's a ton of different companies and offers and offerings, platforms, wallets to choose between, and it can become kind of confusing. So I'll talk about the differences between them, who holds the ownership in what case. And then finally, I'll talk about some recent news and the shift into self-custody, because this is actually something that has always been the case, that people do self-custody, but with recent events that we don't need to name names, but I'll talk about it. There's been a ton of assets moving into the space, like billions of assets worth of assets moving into self-custody. So excited to talk about that too. So starting off, seed phrase and private keys, you've probably heard of these terms before, but I'll just go over them just so we're on the same starting page. A seed phrase, it's that 12 to 24 word phrase. This is a fake one. Don't try to look at it. I pulled it from the internet. That is the password, a very complicated password to your wallet. And the funny thing is, as secure as blockchain actually is, it's funny that this is the way we secure our passwords and secure our accounts. It's a piece, it's usually like the situation where someone takes a Post-it note and writes down the seed phrase and then sticks it on their computer, kind of like you would a normal password. But it's just very easy to lose. It's hard to keep safe because you can't really keep it on your desktop. You can't keep it anywhere else, but you need to keep it safe also at the same time. It's the access to your keys. So this is the seed phrase. The other thing you really need to keep safe is the private key. So if you have done any work in cryptography or cybersecurity, there's something called like a public key, private key pair. And this is another way to keep your account safe and prove authenticity of who owns the account. So I like to use the analogy of an email system to kind of give an example of what this is. So when you have an email, you have your public domain. So mine is Maika@webacy.co. That's essentially my public key. So anyone can see that, anyone can know about it. Everyone knows it's associated with me. Now my private key is my password to that email. So only I know that password. And by me having that password, I can send messages out of it. I can read messages that come in. It's kind of like authenticating that I'm the true owner of that email domain. And so with the private key, it's the same thing. Your public key is that long hexadecimal number of your wallet address or your ENS on chain. And the private key, you don't actually mostly see it for the most part as a user in the space, but it's there. And that's how you sign all the transactions and prove that you own the wallet. So these are the two things. Private key also, if someone has your private key and the associated public key, they can use your wallet as if they're you. So it's another thing that is a attack vector, but also something for you to keep safe. So now this concept comes into the concept of what's the difference between custodial and non-custodial. So in a custodial situation, the companies or the owners of the wallets are the ones that know about your seed phrase and know about your private keys. So if you've made an account on Coinbase or Kraken, or unfortunately, if you made an account on FTX, you probably realize that you have an email and password login of some sort, but you don't actually see anything like a seed phrase or a private key to take care of. And this is by design. And so that means on the back end, these companies own that seed phrase and private keys for these accounts on chain. So one good thing is that you don't have to actually deal with managing those things, which is a huge relief on the hands of the user. But on the other hand, if any of these companies decide to shut down accounts or freeze accounts, you have no access to your assets. So this is what happened with some of these. Unfortunately, some of them are still saviors and are still alive, like Coinbase, still staying strong. But that's the custodial end. Non-custodial, you've likely also heard of many of these names. So this is like MetaMask, Coinbase Wallet is the other icon you see there. Arculus is a hardware wallet. It looks like a little credit card. I have one here. And then Ledger is that little key that is a hardware wallet. In this situation, usually when you set it up, you'll see the seed phrase pop up on your screen and you have to write it down, you have to manage it, and you can also access your private keys if you need to. So in this situation, you have now the responsibility and you have to deal with managing these keys and private seed phrases, but you also have full ownership over your assets. So if anything happens to the blockchain ecosystem, you still technically own your NFTs, your crypto, and so on. So these are some basics in the difference. Now, when it comes to the entire ecosystem, it gets really broad. So we recently, Webacy as a company, we deployed, or we kind of posted this big blog post about the self-custody ecosystem landscape, because it gets kind of confusing. You have hardware wallets, which is the Ledger and the Arculus. You have even B2B products that serve other companies. So that's like Fortify and BitPower. And then you have all the mobile and desktop wallets that you probably use as individuals. I use a MetaMask, also Rainbow, all these other options. And then you get even more complicated, like multi-sig technology. You've heard of Gnosis Safe, that's this little green icon. You have smart contract-based wallets like Argent. Webacy ourselves, we're not a wallet ourselves, but we're in this smart contract-based technology sector. So you can see that the space is growing, and that's kind of also a factor of the changing dynamics within the crypto ecosystem in general. So kind of talking about that recent news, I pulled this tweet a couple weeks ago, and this is following the FTX collapse, and I'll read these bullet points. But so Safe, this is Gnosis Safe, they saw an $800 million inflow just after FTX of just value in general. This number is actually much higher now. This was a couple of weeks ago that I pulled this tweet. Ledger sales reached an all-time high. They usually peak during the holiday season, but they peaked way before that with the FTX collapse. Trezor is another hardware wallet, had a huge growth. Zengo, another hardware wallet, had triple-digit growth. You're just seeing a ton of value moving into the space. So some of the other numbers I pulled is that more than 3 billion in Bitcoin assets by themselves, just Bitcoin, has moved into self-custody. Again, MetaMask monthly active users are expanding like crazy. And then there's just this continuous outstream out of custodial accounts. So if you're following the Binance founder, CZ, he's been talking about he's been kind of like tweeting about the amount of assets that are moving out of Binance. And we're seeing just a massive influx into people taking ownership over their own accounts, which is both a great thing. And also it could be a little bit sensitive because there's a lot of challenges that come with self-ownership. So I'll back up before I even talk about this stuff. One of the reasons I started Webacy, which I'll get into when we get there later, was that I got phished myself, embarrassingly. So I clicked on like a couple different links in the NFT space while I was degenning around, and luckily I didn't lose too much, but my whole wallet was drained. And it just goes to show that even if you're in the space, even if you think you're quote unquote knowledgeable, it's super easy to accidentally make a mistake, get hacked, or even utilize a platform that later gets hacked. And so your public information is out. This happened with the Slope wallet a couple months ago with Solana. So I'll talk through the benefits and challenges here, but just a personal story. That's kind of part of why Webacy came to be, was personal loss of funds. So this benefits challenges slide is all about self-custody. So on the benefits side, you get to own your own crypto, like I mentioned. So if some other company goes down, doesn't matter, you still have your own access. You also always have access. So just like how banks today have opening hours from 9 to 5, if you own your own crypto, you don't have to worry about that. Kind of the same across the crypto space, but in general, if you own your own, you can access it at any time. You can do what you want with it. Like no one's going to tell you that you can't move something here and there. Robinhood's not going to close trading on a certain thing. You can interact with Web3. That's another thing. If you own assets in Coinbase, Kraken, FTX, you can't interact with all the fun dApps, metaverses, and all these accounts that you need a MetaMask for, or you need a Coinbase wallet for. And so it really frees you up into trying all of these new experiences and new opportunities that you have in Web3 if you own your own assets. And then finally, this piece is still yet to be built out fully, but on-chain identity is something that people are working on. And so this could include anything from your on-chain history of things you've done, or eventually when we have more developed technologies like soulbound tokens, it could be owning your work history. It could be owning your graduation history. It could be owning any other part of your interaction with the Web3 world, which is pretty exciting to think about. Now, on the other hand, the challenges are many. So it's very easy to lose your seed phrase. I'll tell a couple stories. So one, we had someone whose house got flooded and their seed phrase was written down on a piece of paper in some folder, which was safe enough at the moment, but the house got flooded, they lost everything, and the seed phrase was gone. That's one example. Another one is that someone bought a new Apple Mac computer, and so they were going to sell their current one, so they deleted MetaMask off their Chrome profile and then reset the computer. So when they opened the new one, the Chrome profile synced across all the computers, and then their MetaMask got deleted. So they didn't have their MetaMask anymore and then didn't have access to it. So that's not losing the seed phrase, but that's losing the account in general. And unfortunately, if you lose your seed phrase or your account, there's no way to recover that. There's no access to backdoor it. Kind of the way on if you lose your email password, you can recover it through email recovery settings. You can't do that. You can't reset your password or reset your seed phrase. So that's one huge kind of like pivotal thing about crypto that's difficult. Another thing we've probably heard about: hacking, phishing, people sending you links and DMs. If you don't turn off your Discord, you might have fallen victim to it. Scams. Another thing that people don't think about is inheritance. So we're starting to see a giant switch of inheritance from boomers to millennials this decade. So we're going to see trillions of regular dollars, like fiat currency, move from boomers into the hands of millennials. And this kind of thing is going to happen again from our generation to the two below us 50 years from now, 60 years from now. And so inheritance is something that has not been thought about on chain. The only way to really pass things on is to give someone your seed phrase, which is by nature, again, you're opening up another vector of attack by sharing your seed phrase. And so that's another piece, of course, of many, many more challenges and things left to do before Web3 is user-friendly and has a good user experience. And this is kind of where Webacy comes in and also solves a lot of these problem points. I will give a brief story about the Webacy's founding. Again, so I was at Microsoft, I was doing cybersecurity for government, and two things happened. So I have a co-founder. And co-founder and I, we both separately had different family members in our inner family circle pass away who had crypto. So that's like one close to home story where we struggled to recover assets, and assets that were in custodial accounts like Coinbase. Those were eventually recovered. It took around 8 months to a year. Assets that were on self-custody lost forever. So this is a significant amount of crypto. You might have even read in Wired or New York Times about people passing away and leaving millions or billions of dollars of crypto behind. And this is something that happens all the time. It's really unfortunate. Second reason is that thing I alluded to, is that I was minting something for an NFT project I was excited about, got hacked, lost all my stuff, and just realized that the security in the space was not enough for most. So we started Webacy. And Webacy, we're the protection layer for self-custody. So we build tools and services, kind of like a suite of tools and services that allow users that have self-custody solutions to improve their security. And I'll talk through our problem set of what we solve and what we build for. But the best part about us is that we aren't a wallet ourselves. We actually allow users to kind of BYO wallet. You can bring a MetaMask, you can bring a Coinbase wallet, you can bring your Ledger, Arculus, whatever you have, and use our stuff on top of it. The other thing is that we don't take access. So we never ask for your seed phrase. We never ask for your private keys. It's all through smart contracts, and it's a technology layer on top of all of your stuff. So I'll talk briefly through the Webacy services, but the main thing I want to talk about is this Wallet Watch, which is, first of all, it's totally free. Second, it's available for everybody. And it's something that is actually a way for you to kind of level up your crypto security and your crypto knowledge right away. And what it is, it's real-time notifications from your wallet. So let's say I send an ETH to Porter. If she's so lucky, I will get a text on my phone immediately as I'm sending that. So it'll give me a pending transaction text, and it'll give me a approved transaction text. So this, you can start to kind of think about how this would be useful. For example, I was watching the World Cup this weekend, and one of my NFTs sold, which is great. But I got a notification on my phone, which is something I wouldn't have actually realized until I went back to my computer, maybe looked at my wallet and saw that there was more ETH than I had before. But again, it's something in the space where you don't really check your wallet enough. You don't check your transactions. Most of us don't go to Etherscan and look at what's going on internally, externally to our wallet. So this is something that we just decided to build out. It's something that many of our users were asking for. But again, it's totally free. You can sign up right now. And you can do email or SMS, which is extremely useful. And I use it to track all of my wallets, hot wallets, cold wallets, and so on. Now, the other products that we have are also quite useful. We have a backup wallet and a panic button. So the backup wallet, this is for the use case where you lose access to your seed phrase, you lose access to your MetaMask, you forget your password, what have you. What it lets you do is it lets you set a backup wallet for your main wallet so that if you ever do lose access in that emergency situation, you can log in with your backup wallet and recover those assets. So for example, I use a MetaMask for my main day-to-day stuff. If I ever lose access to that MetaMask, which has almost happened a few times to me, I can sign in with my Arculus wallet. I can just connect with this and recover the assets that I pre-approved to my Arculus. So that way I could recover my BFF bracelet. I can recover all the things that are actually important to me. So this has been utilized by many people, unfortunately, because I think we just make mistakes as people, and user error is something that we don't account for when we're planning. But this is something that has been extremely useful for our people. And then the second piece, this panic button, this is kind of for a hack and scam situation, or if you think you're part of a vulnerability. And this allows you to one-click transfer everything to your backup wallet in an instant. So typically, if you feel like your wallet is hacked, you have to one by one transfer all of your assets to that backup wallet. And that takes gas, it takes a lot of time. And if you're racing against a hacker, you could lose. And so the great part about this panic button is you click once, all of the pre-approved assets go to the backup wallet that you know is yours, and you can save a significant amount of your assets depending on how fast you are, which is great. So these two are kind of two sides of the same coin on a technology perspective. And then on that inheritance piece I mentioned before, we have a crypto will. And actually, the crypto will is the very first product that Webacy built. Webacy, the name comes from web legacy. And it was kind of started to discuss the whole digital identity that we have as people and that we're going to continue to build out. But we built a crypto will, which is an entirely on-chain way for you to pass on your assets to beneficiaries without sharing your seed phrase, without sharing your private keys. It's based on like a time lock trigger. I could talk about like details forever, but this is something that many big crypto whales have had, or people who just have an estate plan and want to include their crypto in it. So this has been quite a unique product in the space. Last thing I'll mention before I dive into some final like actionable security tips that are useful for everyone. We have an NFT access token. They're called the Grimmies. They're little Grim Reapers, again, kind of alluding to the start of Webacy and the kind of that death tech feeling that we started with. But these guys will give you free access to the platform for the very first year, and then pricing benefits forever. So if you want to get in on the backup wallet panic button crypto will, this is what you'll get. You get access to the community, to us, the development team. You can ask for new features and so on. But again, this is just a piece of the Webacy ecosystem. So the last thing I wanted to end with is, I know I kind of rambled about a lot of the crypto self-custody space, but there's a lot of actionable things you can do today and starting today that'll keep you 99% safer than everyone else in the space. And this is basically that list. The first one, using a hot wallet and a cold wallet combo. So I will explain what these things are just in case we don't know, but a hot wallet, this is something where your keys or your seed phrases might be connected to the internet somehow. So a hot wallet would be a MetaMask or a Coinbase wallet. Just by nature of them being in your browser, they're a hot wallet because the keys are associated with your browser. So unfortunately, if your browser or your desktop gets hacked, the keys are available. The cold wallet, this is something where it doesn't touch the internet. So this could be a hardware wallet. It could be a vault. I myself use a Ledger for a cold wallet and an Arculus for a cold wallet. And having that separation allows you to make sure that any assets in that cold wallet just never get touched. There's no opportunity for anyone to ever hack that wallet. Whereas the hot wallet, you can play around with Web3, you can do all your stuff, you can mint the new NFT collection you wanted to do. And so it's kind of it's a good hygiene practice to have multiple wallets. Starting with 2 is a good place to start. Second point, hardware wallet. So a hardware wallet, like a Ledger or an Arculus, it keeps your keys on the device itself rather than the computer. So kind of like I mentioned before, MetaMask, your seed phrase, your private keys online. On a hardware wallet, you have to have the actual thing to be able to sign transactions. And so that means that if a hacker doesn't have the physical product, they can't get access to your things. So by nature, it's safer. There are still many ways that a hardware wallet can get hacked, unfortunately, but it is safer, quote unquote, in general than a hot wallet. Third thing, double checking URLs. This is huge. A lot of hacks and scams and phishing attempts happen just by changing one letter in the URL or making the letter into a number and you just don't notice. So I personally bookmark all of the places I visit often. So I bookmark OpenSea, I bookmark Webacy, just so I know that I'm going to the right place every time. Another tip that I learned after my first hacking was close your Discord DMs. So every time you join a new Discord, shut off the DMs, make sure no one can message you. Try not to just accept random friend requests either. Another tip, never click on links in social DMs. So this includes Discord, but it also means Instagram. It means Twitter. These people are finding ways to reach you at every which way, every location. Even if you feel like it's a verified account or someone you know, just don't click. Figure out a way to verify in other ways, or just go directly to the project site. Now, at this point, if possible, reading the smart contract can actually give you a lot of knowledge or insight into it. Even if you don't read Solidity or don't read code, you can look at the comments. If people have been scammed before, they might leave comments, they might leave notes on the smart contract that tells you not to interact with it. The last 2 are my personal favorite tips. Don't be the first. This is kind of like when someone posts an announcement in your Discord channel, don't be the first person to click on it. Like wait a couple minutes, see if the moderator deletes that post, because sometimes the moderator account gets hacked and people get tricked into clicking on something that's not actually true, even if it's from the main account that you're supposed to be able to trust. So I always give posts like a good 10, 15 minutes, let people react with emojis, make sure that other people do it first before I ever click on anything. And then the last piece, obviously use Webacy. Our technology allows you to fulfill different use cases that aren't managed just through personal use, personal accounting, all of those holes that open up within smart self-custody in the smart contract space. Webacy fills a lot of those. So that's my personal favorite safety tip. I think we can pause there. Happy to open up for questions and talk further into any of this, but that is kind of the bulk of crypto self-custody security. And then, starting your journey and continuing, it's always a fun time.
Amazing. This is awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, would love to get some questions out. I know I have a few, but if anyone wants to start, question, comments, fully welcome. Okay, I guess I'll start with a logistical question. So for anyone getting started with Webacy, do we need to start by purchasing a Grimmy, or is there a way to access the platform otherwise?
So you can totally access the platform without a Grimmy at all. So that wallet watch thing I mentioned, that's totally no Grimmy. You just sign up on our website. And so I can drop that link. But yeah, you can get started there. And if you want to try out the other stuff, the Grimmy is the way to go.
Awesome. Thank you. Yes, go ahead. I see a hand up.
Hi, everyone. You meant me, Porter, right? Dragonessi? Okay.
Yeah, you're good, Ines.
Yeah, I'm fascinating. I'm flabbergasted with this. Thank you so much, Maika. This is really amazing. And I would love to have your take on the potential for soulbound tokens to become a bit of a problem with all the difficulties that self-custody brings. At least right now, that's something that I still haven't really I haven't found a way to conciliate it in my head because I think it's quite dangerous to have soulbound tokens on the one side and then be able to lose the place where you have them, not being able to get them back. So I would love to have your thoughts on this.
Yeah, so I think soulbound tokens are an awesome concept. And I think we're many, many months, maybe years away from actually realizing the potential that they have. Again, kind of the same reasons why self-custody is so difficult makes soulbound tokens so difficult. So first thing, you can't choose what gets dropped to you, right? So we all have these like weird NFTs that got airdropped to our wallets that we should not interact with and can't move because of fear that it could potentially hack you and so on. So that's one thing, is that anyone could drop you any soulbound token and that's associated with your wallet forever, unfortunately. The other thing is that, again, if you lose access, but it's a soulbound thing, if you have to create a whole new account and a new on-chain identity, what happens there? And so we have this gap of just user experience, user management, account management in the space. And until we fix that, soulbound tokens aren't going to become like a regularly utilized thing, in my opinion.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that more or less that agrees with what I thought, and the whole thing of you cannot really choose if you're dropped it or not. It's cool. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Someone in the chat asked if Webacy has a main competitor. If so, who is it and why they should be choosing Webacy over other players and solutions? Tough ask. I like it.
I love the hard questions. So luckily, we were one of the first people in this kind of self-custody security landscape that launched even just last year. Like we're still that early in this space where we, as a company that's barely a year old, is one of the first. There's a couple of companies out there that do different things similar to us. So for example, there's a protocol called sarcophagus.io. They're a on-chain protocol that's a dead man switch. So that's kind of the competitor for our crypto will. If you go and look at it, it is a full protocol. The mainnet contracts haven't been audited or tested yet. So there's very big differences technologically that happen between the two. And it's quite crypto native, whereas ours it's more designed towards a Web 2 coming into Web 3 kind of audience. Now, when it comes to our other products, I have not come across anyone who does the backup wallet the same way. There's a company called Kirobo, Kirobo. I believe it's an Israeli-based company that they do a vault-like product. So you send assets into them, and then you can set up a backup, you can set up an inheritance protocol and so on. But again, you have to move your assets out of your self-custody and out of your MetaMask. And then the final piece is that some of our wallet monitoring and our future plans dip into the space of real-time monitoring and real-time transaction front running. And in that space, there's actually quite a few competitors. Having trouble coming up with the most recent one we just looked at. I think it's called Gatekeep. That one's a very good competitor. But we don't do front running quite yet. We're kind of dipping our toes.
In front of Dad's desk.
We'll see.
Okay.
But again, so Webacy, we cover use cases that many competitors don't cover, like backup wallet, panic button. Nobody has that right now. So we're in a good spot.
Beautiful. We have another question on data storage. Is it off-chain, on-chain? If it's on-chain, is it with ceramic? All that jazz.
Yeah, so data-wise, when you're actually utilizing our products, what's happening under the hood is we are a smart contract factory. So every user, if you log in with your wallet and you set up your backup wallet, you own that. You own like the system that's building that. So we as a company, we can't actually access anything. We don't have your seed phrase, private keys, and so on. So all of the approvals that you set, the backup wallet settings, the panic button settings, those are on-chain, which allows it to be decentralized, but it's also public. So we don't host any off-chain data. It's all just on-chain stuff that you set up, kind of like when you list an asset on OpenSea, that's on-chain and you can see it. When you pre-approve an asset for your backup wallet, that's on-chain and people can see it. And so it's just on Ethereum right now.
Beautiful. Any other questions? I'll ask another one. What is one of your biggest goals for future roadmap?
Ooh, good question. So this might be a little bit of alpha because we haven't announced much of it. So two things actually. One thing is that we are a platform ourselves. And so either we can get more people onto the Webacy platform, or my goal is to actually bring this security to more people. And so we're partnering with a lot of different people to get a one-to-many model with our tech. So for example, we have a new announcement coming out with a big hardware wallet partner, which is exciting, to allow all of their users to have our tech. We're also building into MetaMask, which is a big partnership that we're super excited about. That's one thing. Second thing is that we are building kind of into that active monitoring space. So a lot of the products we have now, you have to be responsible to set it up first before something happens. And that's difficult. It's like kind of like buying insurance before you need it. So we're building products into the space of active monitoring and active things like 2FA. So if you sign up for Wallet Watch, you'll get texts and emails. It's just notifying you, but this is one step towards our next product, which is actually allowing you to approve transactions before they go into the mempool, which would be huge if we had like a real life tether to the transactions going through our wallet.
Awesome. Those are really amazing updates, super exciting stuff. Can't wait to see it. And then Catherine has asked if we have a broader community, DAO, and or other ways people could get involved.
Great question. So we have a Discord, which mostly people come for like support for like account setup and things like that, but we often run AMAs. We have kind of blockchain tax specialists that come in here and there and run things for our community. But other than that, you can follow all of our updates are usually on Twitter and Discord. We also have an Instagram, if people still use that these days.
Yeah, I feel you. Reading these other questions, let's see. Biggest things you want to maybe improve upon in the platform. And then someone else has asked, beyond the free features, is the cost just the initial Grimmy, or is it something ongoing?
Good question. So first one, things I want to improve upon, literally everything. We're clearly a startup and we're only 8 people. And so although the features are really well liked by our audience, I think that we have a lot of work to do on like the onboarding education for utilizing our products. So I think that's one thing is user flow, user education about what each product is something we really need to improve. And that's what we're building this month, along with a bunch of other stuff, but that's one thing. Next question was about pricing, right? So with the Grimmy, you get the full backup wallet, panic button, and the crypto will security suite. Again, Wallet Watch is totally free. You don't need anything for that. What users have to pay is gas fees. So we've put a lot of attention into reducing gas fees and reducing that barrier completely. There are still some gas fees associated with it, just like you have to pay a gas fee to list something on chain, like an NFT. That's just part of it. So we are working even now for another update that's going to reduce our gas fees further, but there is that cost associated with it.
Awesome. Okay, and the last question is just, how do loved ones access your Webacy will? So when you set someone as your beneficiary, how do they get that access?
Yes, excellent question. So again, we're working on a new kind of built out infrastructure of this for people who are non-crypto native that are beneficiaries. But for now, when you set up your crypto will, you associate a crypto wallet address as a beneficiary for each beneficiary. So you could set it up for them. If they are crypto native, you could set their wallet address. And then when the time comes, again, based on a little bit of more technical, like time locked triggering, which I can talk about another time, or we can, like, I'm happy to talk offline about it. Then at that point, your beneficiary can log in with that wallet that was associated with their account. They can log in, see what was left to them, and then retrieve those assets out of there. But we are working on a system where either one, we could liquidate the assets completely and just send it to an account, or another one where we could actually onboard someone into Web3 to be able to recover those assets. Because again, most beneficiaries in this space either don't have crypto, are kids, or just are not knowledgeable enough.
Yeah, I had that problem when setting mine up. I was like, I don't know who to give this to, but I love that. I think that's awesome focus. Very small question for gas fees. Is that on ETH or Polygon? I think it's ETH.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to work on this Polygon next. That's next on our roadmap.
Oh, I love this question. Can we buy more than one Grimmy and give it to someone?
100%. Yes. It's a good Christmas gift. Extra wallet security.
Someone actually made an offer on mine this morning and I was like, what the heck? I'm keeping this. Yes, totally. And then last question is there an article or any sort of like FAQ blog post on the site that summarizes everything in case people want to dig a bit deeper into Webacy?
That's a good prompt for me to write one. We don't have a white paper out for these products. We do have our main website, which briefly explains some of these things, and an FAQ. We have a blog that's linked on a header of our website too, it talks about some of the topics in detail, especially if we've launched. But again, it's on my to-do list to write like a full write-up of all the products.
Beautiful. Any other questions? This has been great. Love the engagement. I know I'm going to go. I've been struggling with Christmas gifts for my family, and my dad keeps texting me being like, can you please help me set up that MetaMask thing? I'm like, yes. I think we'll do a dual package deal here and throw in a Grimmy and make
Amazing.
it really super safe. But if no other questions, thank you so much. Oh, is Webacy hiring? We love that question.
We are hiring, yes, very excitedly. So the team is growing. We just secured another round of funding. Have not been announced, but it's a lot. So we're super pumped about it.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much. If people want to follow along in the future, what's the best place to do that?
So you can follow our Twitter at mywebacy. I'll type it into the chat. On Twitter and Instagram, I think is the same handle. And so that's where all of the company updates come from. Beautiful.
Okay, everyone, be sure to follow along. Let us know in the SheFi Discord if you buy a Grimmy. And let's get some product feedback going. Thank you everyone so much for joining, and thank you, Maika, for being here. This was awesome. Thank you guys. See you later.
Thank you.